I'm super excited to have the opportunity to moderate this. I did start Cannuka about 16 months ago, and I've learned firsthand how important strategic partnerships are. The only way we've been able to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish is because out of the gates, we focused on building these strategic partnerships, leaning on their strengths, and us focusing on ours. So I'm excited if you're starting a new brand, have started a brand, take notes. This is super, super important stuff, and we'll dive right into it. The quick flow, I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves, quick, high level, 2 to 3 sentences, what you all do, and then I'm going to follow up with that with some specific questions on how it can benefit you and help you scale your business. If we have enough time at the end, would love to open it up for questions with the audience and really just dive in to really add as much value as possible. Okay, to start it off, JJ from Zipline.
Hey everyone, I'm JJ Rodeheffer with Zipline Logistics. Zipline manages transportation for consumer goods shippers. We help you get your POs into retailers without issues. We now are 70 people and manage about 70,000 shipments a year.
Fantastic. Jelina from Accounting Management, Inc.
Hi guys, I'm Jelina from Accounting Management, Inc. We help brands grow, scale, and manage their business, and we do that through our CFO, COO, and accounting services.
Michael from BREX.
Hi, good morning. My name is Michael, and BREX is a corporate credit card, so a MasterCard credit card, and we offer 60-day interest-free float for everything that you put on credit cards, so like ads, shipping, software. So.
Cool. Next up is Courtney with Oracle.
Hi everyone, I'm Courtney Velasco. I run industry marketing for the fashion and health and beauty divisions at Oracle NetSuite. And what we do is we are a technology provider that helps emerging brands in the fashion, health and beauty space grow and scale. So think about we're your central system for all your items, inventory, order management. We hook into e-commerce, we hook into 3PLs. So we are kind of the center of your technology universe, and we help you grow to reach your goals.
And Nick from the Giannuzzi Group.
Hi, I'm Nick Giannuzzi. I'm a lawyer. We have a 15-lawyer law firm here in the Meatpacking District. We also have an office in Santa Monica, and we represent about 1,000 beauty, personal care, food and beverage companies, almost all sort of in the natural, better-for-you space. And we work with brands, and we help them grow, and we do their financing, and eventually we do their M&A exit work when they sell and get rich.
Perfect. And this question, I think, is really, really important. It's going to be very specific on how they can benefit your business. As a founder, you all work with founders at many different levels. What are the future problems new founders see, some that they may not even know exist yet, and how specifically can you help them solve that? Go down the line again. JJ.
Yeah, sure. So you're right. Met with hundreds of brands over the years, and I think the most important part from the transportation perspective is imagine you get your first PO from QVC or Ulta or Costco, and everything goes right, but you're not prepared with a partner on the transportation end, and you're up all night hoping that order delivers and that the buyer doesn't have to get involved. If you just use anyone, that can be an issue. So forming a partnership with a logistics resource can help you feel confident that that's going to happen, and also help you with the problem solving. So that's something where we are always talking to the brands about what we can do for them on the transportation side.
Perfect. Jelina?
So one of the things that I see happening with newer brands is they're excited, they have a product, but they're not diversifying their supply chain, and they're also not diversifying where they're selling the product at. So for instance, when you launch a brand, it's important that you are selling direct to consumer, but we do live in a global economy, and we need to be ready and prepared to sell our goods worldwide. And then the second piece is, if you are direct to consumer now, your website is going really well, you want to be able to also partner up with retailers so that you can bring your product into that wholesale business and be able to use those retailers to really show the brand and have the brand out there. And then the second thing is the supply chain. It takes so long to get that perfect factory that's like packaging your product perfectly and delivering on time. But as soon as you do that, make sure you get your second search going for your second supply chain. So those are the two things, and that's what we help small businesses with, because we partner with them and we help them through this diversification stage.
So I think what I see, at least on the financing side, is oftentimes the faster you're growing, because you're monetizing your sales somewhere around 45, 60 days after you're advertising them and buying the inventory, you actually start to need more and more capital, and so that can become a big problem. And I think one of the things that I see is that you really need something to help bridge the gap between future sales and current spend on inventory, ads, shipping. And so I think when I think about the three main problems that I see for online brands and other retailers, that's probably one of the big three.
Great. Courtney?
I think what we see across the board are good problems to have. So when brands are hitting a curve of hyper growth, it's often the technology that's providing their infrastructure starts to break. And usually they're buying a point solution for inventory, and then they're, emailing their 3PL, and then they're putting everything into QuickBooks. And what we see is really successful are the brands that think ahead, and they match their technology toward the path of trajectory. So say you're an emerging brand, and you know that within the first 2 years you have a goal to be international. You should think about what your platform should be and set that tone to provide that foundation, so that your workflow and your business processes around your supply chain, around logistics, are being managed by leading practices, and not just because this is how our system does it. Because it's much easier to, carve a nice groove and follow that path. It's a lot harder to break a bad habit because of your technology, and then also your people are indoctrinated in that muscle memory, and then it just causes problems. So getting onto a platform that can grow and scale with you earlier than you think has been the key to a lot of the emerging brands that we work with today.
Well, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of fantastic brands where the founder worked really hard to build this, beautiful thing that one day they could sell, but what they created was unsellable. And so, as you're blocking and tackling and growing your business and trying to be in more retailers and trying to have better products and trying to hit scale, you also have to make sure that at the end of the day, you've created a foundation in your company that's sellable. And what I mean by that specifically is you have to make sure that even though you've had developers help you develop your formulas, even though you've got a name of a brand and a trademark and trade dress and packaging and branding, you need to make sure you own that. And it seems like a simple thing, but if you don't have the right contracts in place, you don't own those things. And I've had buyers, strategics walk away at an acquisition table because the underlying foundation wasn't there. If you have manufacturing contracts, are those manufacturing contracts assignable when you sell your company? Or do you go to sell your company and tell the manufacturer and they tell you, well, you can't assign? And so as you build your company, I always talk about these sort of foundational things, whether it's your IP and your branding, whether it's your manufacturing, whether it's your sort of sales approach and your distributors, whether it's your partners as you bring in investors and private equity. Make sure that they don't control your company. Make sure you control your company. And a lot of times, young founders, meaning young brands, they don't really have their eye on the ball about those things, because you're going to do perhaps an early financing and you might do another and another before you exit. And if you haven't been keeping an eye on the control issues in your company, you could even lose control or be dispossessed of ownership of the brand that you started. And so what we do as a law firm is we're lawyers for founders. Our job is to help you grow a brand that you can eventually sell at the highest price, and that you as the founder or management can keep control of, and that you don't lose control of that company to investors.
Nick, a quick follow-up. There's as a brand, there are so many things going on, and you're wearing so many different hats. How early should someone reach out to a firm like yours to get this advice?
It's funny because when you're a young brand, I tell my young brands, just spend money on growth, right? Don't spend it on lawyers. The funny thing is all the people who have sold brands in the past and have gone through the process, they're all the ones who come back to me, and the day they form the company, they start with me because they know all the things that can go wrong. And so it's a balancing act. You do not want to overspend for a lawyer. At the same time, you don't want to get to 25 million in revenue and find out that you've got a broken, a broken product. A company where there's a hole in there where it's really going to hurt your exit. So self-servingly, I would say, talk to us on day one. And a lot of times I'll talk to young founders, young brands, and I'll say, look, maybe what you want to use me for is one phone call a year. This is all I do. I've been doing it for 20 years, and I have 1,000 clients. We've sold hundreds of companies. Maybe I'm on your Rolodex, and you talk to us twice a year. Maybe you don't have the money to spend for everything you do. But it is important to get ahead of it, and that's why forums like this are so nice, because you're going to be able to listen to a lot of people who can call out these problems as you grow, and they'll have you thinking. I've had a lot of people say to me over the years, I never used you, Nick, until now, but I heard you speak 2 years ago, and because of that, we did this with our trademark, or we did this with our co-packer. So just keep your ears open and really pay attention to what people are saying, because it's all valuable.
Good feedback. Courtney, Oracle, you provide a lot of different services. How do you cater your services to a specific vertical? There's so many different categories just in CPG. How do you explain that to a new startup out of the gates?
It's a great question. So just recently, probably in the past 5 years, NetSuite, Oracle. So NetSuite is a fully functioning business unit under Oracle. We were acquired in 2016. We're organized by business type, and this allows us to do a couple things. One, when you encounter your first account executive, you're working with a team who knows your industry. So we're arranged by vertical, meaning we have an entire division that's dedicated to food and beverage. We have a division dedicated to health and beauty, as well as fashion, so apparel, footwear, and accessories. And what that's done for us is it's allowed us to be experts in our field. So I've gone from being in the sales role to being into marketing. We know your business from the top down. It gives us the opportunity to see the same processes over and over again. So from sales to delivery and product, we have an entire package that allows us to work with food and bev companies. Say, oh yeah, we just worked with five companies just like you. And while your company is unique, a lot of the challenges are the same. So your team knows your business. We're not working with an ice cream company one day and then talking to someone who makes widgets. We're very focused. Our product is very focused. So our product, while NetSuite is very broad and flexible, our additions are specific to each industry. So when I started, we had a retail division, and I used to try to sell retail division to apparel companies, and as you know, it's a little different with style, color, size, and there were limitations in the product. We've addressed that. So it allows us to tailor the product. It allows us to tailor our expertise. So, we also have professional services. So then we know from an apparel or maybe a health and beauty company, you're going to have ERP, but who are you working with e-commerce? Oh, it's Shopify. Okay, well, we use these guys for integration. Oh, you're working with a 3PL? These are the common ones that hook into NetSuite. So we know your ecosystem and your universe, and it allows us to serve these areas better because we're focused and we're specialized.
Amazing. Michael, your company very much interests me because capital is so important when you're starting a business. You have to have capital to build. Who's your ideal candidate? And when, again, I ask about timing, we're talking to a lot of founders here, startups. When is the ideal time that they get with you, and who is that ideal candidate?
Sure. So we often get asked, what's the catch, just because it seems pretty good to have a 60-day float without paying any fees or interest. I think there really isn't a catch. And so what we did is, actually BREX, the company was started serving startups, so tech startups. And then what happened is a bunch of e-commerce companies and online brands started signing up and saying, well, this is really good, but we actually need 60-day float because, we buy stuff, but then we don't sell it until around 45 to 60 days later. And it would be really helpful to extend the payment terms. Because we are kind of a newer credit card, it's really easy for us to integrate, change our software, change our features. For example, we integrate with NetSuite, which is actually kind of differentiated in the credit card space. Since I'm the CFO, I care about that because I use NetSuite. But I think, so what we did is we created this 60-day interest-free product, and we also sort of turn the rewards program on its head. I think a lot of times people get credit card rewards, they don't really do anything. If you're a business, they don't actually serve, they don't add any actual value. It's just, flights or something like that that's maybe more for a personal. And so we made the rewards much more focused around things that online brands use. So shipping services, software, third-party e-commerce platforms, a lot of discounts and sign-up offers. So I think that's been really, really good. And to answer your question directly, so pretty much any online brand or business that's got typically around $50,000, $25,000 to $50,000 in sales is where we kind of like to see. So some history, just because we are extending some credit, but otherwise we just we basically give you a limit based on your monthly sales, and that's it.
It's perfect feedback. Most entrepreneurs are very goal-oriented, so having that 25 to 50K benchmark to go get, it makes it a little bit more achievable. Jelina, we had such a great conversation yesterday about your business and the success that you've had. When you onboard a new brand, what is that first thing that you guys focus on that can set that brand up for success?
Yeah, so we start with a 5-year plan. It's important that as soon as we sign up with a new client, we sit down and we have a full 5-year plan that we build together. It's an amazing experience because then you start talking about what sales you're going to have, how you're going to distribute those sales. Then we go down to the cost of goods. How is that going to, what's your profit margins, what is the markup that you need to have? And then the second favorite is the operations. Where are you going to have your operations really scale and how it's going to scale? So 5-year plan.
Amazing. And then JJ, and again, everybody, a lot of my questions have to do with timing because there's so many things going on when you're an entrepreneur. When do we do certain things? So again, coming down to timing, going back to JJ at Zipline Logistics, when is the best time for the startup to start looking for that 3PL or the distributor to work with? And then how specifically can Zipline get into the mix and help take that off the shoulders of the founder and help expand?
By show of hands, how many people here, companies, work with a third-party logistics company? So you guys are ahead of the game, right? The time is definitely now. Fortunately for me, Cannuka is a partner of ours, but ultimately there are specialists out there that can help you solve your issues. And when you get that first PO or that first critical raw material that's not going to make production, you need someone that you can call. And if it's just a vendor on the other end, that may work, but it certainly won't deliver confidence. If it's QVC calling you with a PO and we know the ins and outs, which, just so you know, it takes 2 weeks to get a delivery appointment in a QVC, you need to know those things. So there are specialists out there that can help you. So similar to Nick, maybe you don't use this often, maybe you don't use this every day, but keep that relationship warm and spend that hour a quarter developing the rapport and relationship with the right 3PL so they can help you. And then second, find the specialist. Right? Whichever world you're in, ensure that you can ask a couple tough questions, such as, hey, I just got my first PO for Costco. What do I do or what do I need to know? Vet their answer. Right? If your 3PL doesn't have a lot of feedback for you or direction, they're probably the wrong partner for you. And there are the right ones out there for you.
I think you're spot on with the specialist. We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. Finding those right partners so we can just stay in our lane is very, very critical. And this is a question I'm going to open up to everybody because there's a lot of different vendors, a lot of different options for the founders out there to choose from. What is your advice, and we can go down the line or jump in, on how do the founders and how do the brands vet the third-party vendors? And we can start down with Nick.
I wanted to pick up on what JJ said, which is that you guys are really lucky. This industry has changed a lot in the last 10 years. 10, 15 years ago, when you wanted to create a brand and you wanted to do something new, you did it by yourself. And the industry has developed and grown, just like this forum has been created, the idea of FounderMade. It ties people together. And the wonderful, beautiful thing about this industry is that there is somebody who can answer the exact question that you have. The big fear that you have, hey, I don't know how to do this, there's a best in breed out there. And And that's not like that in every industry. I've been in other industries, and it wasn't even like that here 10 or 15 years ago. You have like highly specialized people who have thrown all in to this industry, and they're available to you. So to answer the question, what I would say is ask a lot of questions. Turn to the person sitting next to you at trade shows, walk up and down the aisles and talk to people and ask, hey, who do you use? How have they been? Because it's a little industry too, and everything's transparent. So if you suck as a service provider, you're not sticking around. And if you're good, you will hear over and over again, oh, she's so good, or he's so good, or those guys have never let me down. And so you cannot do it by yourself, and nor do you have to. Everything you guys need to, even though you're doing something a little different than anybody's ever done before, even though you have white space, there's people around you that can help you get there.
And I can piggyback on that a little bit too, is ask around. So what's so great about how emerging brands are coming up in the CPG space is that there's a lot of transparency because we're all online. So thinking about like my network here, we all touch each other in many different ways. Take those brands that are aspirational to you. Like chances are you've founded a brand and you look up to a certain brand and you want to follow their trajectory. Find out who their technology partners are. Chances are if they've grown really quickly, they've figured it out. And again, to your point, networks talk to each other. So make sure when you vet your solution partner, not only is it good for what they do for best in breed, but who do they play well with? Because you think about it, from a CPG standpoint, you got to play well in the supply chain. So if you're thinking about looking at maybe an ERP like NetSuite or something of more of a robust platform play, think about what their ecosystem and their universe is, because chances are you have to integrate your e-com to your 3PL, maybe to stores. So you have to make sure that that entire surrounding universe is vetted as well, because it takes, you have a multi-channel business, you touch many different places. Also take a look at your solution provider and see if they're well connected and do they have a good partner network. You'll see that we all triangle and we all touch each other in different ways, and that's because the supply chain is so diverse. Make sure your technology partners are diverse as well and well-versed in other areas of that space outside of where they specialize, because it all affects the same thing, and that's your business at the core.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I mean, one of the interesting things about this space is that, different pieces of it have come online at different times. So, ads probably before logistics, probably before financing. And so I think for me, when I think about if I, starting a brand or starting a company, a lot of times people rush into services. And I mean, at least for us, when we were starting, we started on one tool, tried it out, didn't work, and we ended up paying for a bunch of different ones. I'm sure all people in the audience have experienced that. So I think I would probably err on the side of just using kind of simple free things that you already have. In terms of business management tools, there's a lot of online free resources to get started on, and slowly you'll have this need to upgrade your systems, infrastructure, vendors, and as that comes up, I think you can make that decision then. And to sort of piggyback on what's been said previously, really helpful thing is either it's someone on your team or someone you know. I mean, it's great to ask around at a conference, but you also kind of need someone day to day that's done this exact thing before, made the mistakes that people make. And so when I think about all the different processes that we set up, certainly there were things I learned in my first time doing finance that I then didn't repeat. And then if there was something I didn't know all about, I always would call someone and say, what do we do? And usually someone who's done it before and made the mistakes, they know exactly what to do. And so I wouldn't try to make that decision in a vacuum and end up buying a bunch of vendors that you end up scrapping.
I think that's a great perspective. We don't know what we don't know. So I'm going to change up the question a little bit, because Jelina, you see and work with so many different brands, and you come from the operational side, which just scares me. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going this way. Operations, it's not as fun. What are the for me that is? What are a few problems?
It's the less glamorous panel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What are some of those problems that some of these entrepreneurs may not even know exist? And then how can you maybe come in and help them alleviate those problems before they're even problems?
So the first thing is you always want to partner yourself or be part of a community that's doing the same thing or almost the same thing. as you're partnering yourself, whether it's a lawyer, an accountant, a finance person, they're going to really help you dive into the actual operations and really help you understand what you don't know. For instance, if you have the right schedules set up for your cost of goods account to be set up the right way so that you can count it correctly, or if you're using the right PPC firm that's using the right technology to push back the information to you so that you can actually act on the data that you're delivering. So yeah, be with the community and ask many questions.
That's great. And candidly, I do work with Zipline, but I was 6 months late. I was 6 months behind of where I wish I would have been with Zipline. So going to kind of piggyback that last question, why is it so important to understand the whole logistics of getting your product from A to B? And do you know any potential retailers that, from my experience, there's so many that have such different packing requirements. What are some of those challenges or problems maybe an entrepreneur out there doesn't even realize exist yet?
Yeah, well, aside from transportation being 10% of your bottom line costs, that takes away, or that doesn't add in the intangibles of problem solving or putting out fires or what can go wrong. Showing up late on your first few POs to a major retailer, you will get the shelf space taken right from you. There are people backfilling that are ready, waiting to take your shelf space. So I think it's really important to know that. And they're all different. We have a 18-page guide on how to handle shipping into Costco. 18 pages. You don't have the time and ability to manage that, but specialists out there like us do. And I want to step back to the question before about vetting partnerships. My favorite questions from our best partnerships, when all the transportation and supply chain questions are aside, is when they step back and they say, tell me about your business. What's new with your business? And I get to talk about all the things that we're doing at Zipline, from the C-suite around people or technology for our customers. And that to me shows a real partnership with our clients. So I love when our partners ask that. So think about those. Ask the hard questions, but then ask them what they're doing in their business. If they're not investing in the business that you're trusting them, that might be a red flag.
I just want to add one more thing. I think it's important, that 10% number that you just mentioned. So obviously there's like many million things that you could do with your business, right? But you have to focus in and really split it into categories. So sales obviously is first. So you want to dedicate time and energy to sales. And then your next section is cost of goods. So you want to make sure that you're spending enough time and dedicating time to your profit margins and ensuring, but don't drive yourself crazy because you then have 10% costs for your logistics. So make sure you spend enough time with logistics as well. And then we go down to marketing. 15% of your revenue, right, goes to marketing. Make sure that you're spending 15% of your time with the marketing department. So and so on and so on.
Are you saying 1.5 or 5.0?
1.5.
Okay. I've seen more, but I'm not disagreeing.
For a profitable business,
Yes,
for a profitable business, because you could spend more than you could spend 200% for a profitable business. But you wanna make sure that you divide it into buckets. As entrepreneurs, we want to do it all, and we want to spend time getting it perfect. Make sure that you divide it into buckets and you spend the right portion of time.
That's perfect. Okay, this is FounderMade, so we're here to, be open and answer any questions. So we have about 5 minutes left. I would love to take one or two questions. We can present it to all the panelists, one individual. Ma'am in the back. You can yell too. It's okay.
We can probably hear you, but.
I've seen a lot of businesses get to the finish line, ran a successful business, they get an offer on the table from a buyer, and then it falls apart. So, Jelina, you have such a great reputation for helping your clients get through like both the growth part of their business and through the due diligence part. So maybe could you give us a couple of things that you see are missteps that people make going into that? And maybe Nick, if you could add on.
Just to clarify, here's what I heard. Is there a specific potential roadmap that someone can follow to put themselves in a position for an exit?
Just like their books aren't in good order, the things that they do on the accounting side.
Yeah, got it. So it starts again with a right business plan in mind. In order for you to prepare for exit, or as I like to call it, a strategic partnership with the next set of parents or owners, you want to make sure that you have the right business plan in mind and you are executing on it, whether it's year-over-year growth, your profit margin, as well as your operational costs. And then the other piece, which is super favorite, you want to start, a part of that business plan is also getting together with the right professionals, because it's a long process and it's very dreary, and you want to make sure they have the right team in place, because you also have to run the business at the same time as you're going through this process. And then the last piece is obviously, where everyone builds a brand and they go into a strategic alliance and they take some money off the table. You want to make sure that you have the right partnership, the right corporation entity to do that, but also that you have the right accounting systems in place so that your tax benefits are coming at handy. And then finally, a good company where you are going to put your money in so that it can get accumulated over time.
Nick, take over about 30 seconds. We'll see if we can get one more question in.
Yeah, I would think that the most important thing is, the exit is it's the everything. It's the Super Bowl. It's what you've spent your career, maybe your whole life getting to. And a lot of times people sort of trip their way through the exit. Instead, what you should do is sort of 6 months before, or even longer. Inside, when we sold Siggy's yogurt, Siggy and I started working 2 years before, building the perfect foundation in terms of documents and appeal and growth. And we made sure that when they went and ultimately did their transaction, when the buyer came in, when the accountants came in, and when the lawyers came in, it was perfect. And so therefore you don't, God forbid, do all that work and then at the very end drop the ball and have a busted process. And so you put good advisors around you, you create the right foundational things, as I mentioned earlier, and then you pick your moment. You go out to the market when the market indicators are telling you that it's the right thing to do.
Unfortunately, I don't have time for the one question, but that was an amazing question, and I think that's on the top of all founders and all brands' minds. It's how to prepare yourself for a potential exit if that's what you want. I know everyone here is going to be here all day. I didn't ask them this, but I'm sure they'll be comfortable with me saying this. If you have questions, I highly, highly, highly advise you finding them, pinning them down, and picking their brains. These are experts in the field, and this is what the event's about. So please, I hope you enjoyed it. This is the building blocks of success. Please find them, and I hope you enjoyed the panel.